December 19th, 1903. The A.A. Parker was a 246-foot-long wooden-hulled steamer employed in the coal trade on Lake Superior. She was 1,660 gross tons and was built in 1884 in Cleveland. The A.A. Parker was owned and operated by the Gilchrist Transportation Company at the time of her last voyage. The Parker had loaded iron ore at Superior, Wisconsin, and was steaming to Cleveland when a furious southwest gale blew in. As the storm intensified, the Parker began to take on water. Captain White knew he was past Keweenaw Point and was heading to Whitefish Point to anchor and ride out the storm there. By the time they made it to Grand Marais, however, the Parker was in serious trouble. The water was pouring in faster than the pumps could remove it, and Captain White knew his ship was going to founder. Captain White ordered his ship turned towards Grand Marais, and as land came into sight, he began blowing distress signals. The life-saving station at Grand Marais had been keeping watch on the Parker as soon as she came into view. They saw the ship turn towards land, and although they couldn't hear the steam whistle over the sound of the storm, they could see the steam rising from it. This was reported to Captain Ben Trudell, commander of the Grand Marais life-saving station. Captain Trudell ordered a surf boat to launch to meet the incoming steamer. They had the wind at their backs, and the life-saving crew rowed 4 miles to the Parker in less than an hour. When they arrived, Captain Trudell realized that the Parker was in imminent danger of foundering. They loaded up as many of the crew as they could in their boat and ordered the rest of the men into the Parker's own yawl boat. All 18 men and Captain White's dogs were able to fit in the boats. Captain Trudell ordered the yawl boat to follow them back to shore. No sooner had they gotten away, though, when they heard loud booms and cracking sounds. Looking back, they could see that portions of the ship were splitting apart due to the pressure of the flooding hull. They watched in horror as the Parker gave a huge lurch before diving bow first under the water. For 3 hours, the citizens of Grand Marais watched the life and death struggle going on as the boats fought what seemed to be an impossible task. All of the men were already tired from their struggle with the storm, and now they were trying to row against the wind and waves to make it to shore. At the 3-hour mark, they were still far out in the lake, and it didn't look as though they were going to be able to make it back. Thankfully, there were tugboats watching the ordeal, and when it was obvious they weren't going to be able to make it back without help, they steamed out to help. The tugs EMBA and the J.W. Westcott both went out. They made it out to the boats and tossed them tow ropes. As soon as they were secured, they towed both boats back to shore safely. It was one of the most dramatic rescues ever performed by the Grand Marais Life-Saving Station. As it turns out, the A.A. Parker had already experienced one sinking. She was built in April 1884 and originally named the Kasota. As the Kasota, she sank in collision with the steamer City of Cleveland on July 19, 1890, 1 mile above Smith's Coal Dock, near the entrance to River Rouge, Detroit River. 1 person lost their life in the accident. The Kasota was raised in the fall of 1891 and taken to the Detroit Dry Dock Company for a complete rebuild during the winter of 1891 to 1892. She was renamed the A.A. Parker and put back into service. Only 1 week before the Parker foundered off Grand Marais, she was anchored near Pequaming. About noon, she whistled for help, and the tug Hebbard promptly responded. The boat was leaking, and there was about 7 feet of water in her hold. The pumps were not working, but were soon placed in action, and in a few hours, all danger seemed to be over, and the Parker left early the following morning. The A.A. Parker shipwreck was finally discovered in the summer of 2001 by a shipwreck research crew from the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point. A team from shipwreck explorers took part in helping to document it in the summer of 2013, and explored more in the following years. It's unique in that the ship is split into 4 pieces on the bottom, and the cargo is spilled all around. There are more than 30 pictures of the wreck available online, and they can be found with a quick web search. This article was assembled from information in the Lian Sentinel, September 26, 1903, the St. Paul Globe, September 20th, 1903, and the Online Ship Database. This is a Country Road production because history is fascinating.